people at GW are trying to develop a vaccine against these hookworms, and they think they have potential vaccine candidates. So how can you tell if a vaccine works? One of the ways is to do like a challenge study, which is like to give somebody the vaccine and then infect them, in this case with hookworm, and see if they get like less worms if they've gotten the vaccine. And so I volunteered to be part of this study because I teach parasitology labs. And I was like, this will be a good story for the rest of my life if I'm ever teaching a parasitology class. And with the parts that we talk about hookworm, I'm like, this would be a good way to get people's attention. And I also just thought it would be interesting to experience having hookworm and seeing how a clinical study like this works with an experimental vaccine. And I thought, maybe this could help people, around the world that can maybe get, if the vaccine works, or if this helps us develop a vaccine that could help hundreds of millions of people that get hookworm. So I signed up for this trial. They also paid me, I will say, like every visit, every time, like I had to go in about every 2 weeks to either give them a blood sample or to get one of the vaccine doses. It had 3 vaccine doses. So unlike a lot of the COVID ones that are like 1 or 2 dose, this was a 3-dose vaccine. And one of the times when I came in, they gave me 50 hookworms. And I was saying that these hookworm like penetrate your skin. So they did just like pipette 50 microscopic worms. At this point, they're really small, onto a piece of like gauze and just like put it on my arm and basically put a piece of tape over that. I mean, it was like fancy, like surgical tape or something, but you could have used a piece of duct tape probably. And I just sat there for an hour, and within like 5 minutes, I'm like, oh my gosh, my arm's getting really tingly feeling and then itchy. And that's like literally the worms like producing enzymes that let them like slip in between my skin cells and like get into my body. And then for, I don't remember exactly how long it was, 6 months, 8 months, I just had these worms. And I would give blood samples. One of the reasons I was totally fine doing this study, one, I knew the biology of the worms. Like I knew they don't really cause that much harm unless you have like hundreds or thousands of them. And I only got 50. Two, if they were monitoring my blood level, if I got like anemic, that's what can happen if you have like thousands of worms. They would have just given me this pill at any point and cured me of hookworm. So there's like very little risk. And yeah, and I would give them stool samples like every couple of weeks. So basically a sample of my poop, because they can check the poop for eggs, and that will tell them how many hookworm I have that are like sexually reproducing in me. So I did that, and I had the hookworm. And I eventually did have, I was like, they were producing eggs because they detected eggs in my stool samples, which means either I got the placebo or the vaccine wasn't like 100% effective. And then the trial kind of came to an end. They gave me 3 doses of the like pill 3 days in a row to like kill off all the hookworm. Then they did a final like stool sample like a month later to make sure I didn't have any eggs at that point. So I was totally cured. The only downside was like the first month of the study, the spot in my arm that the hookworms penetrated was like itchy, like really, really itchy, like poison ivy level, maybe even a little worse for like 2 or 3 weeks. But besides that, like once the worms were in my intestine, apparently, I never would have known they were there. I couldn't feel anything. There's no pain. And I actually did not have any seasonal allergies that spring, which was interesting. I normally have some like, scratchy throat in the springtime when plants are producing a lot of pollen. And it turns out that these hookworms do secrete compounds to keep your immune system from killing them. And so they might produce compounds that kind of like lower, tell our immune system to chill out a little bit. And that might help with people's allergies potentially, or especially there's some studies going on to see if people that have like serious digestive tract issues like Crohn's disease or inflammatory bowel syndrome, potentially giving them hookworm or compounds derived from hookworm could help. Now, I'm not telling it, please nobody go get hookworm. It's not like
Yeah,
a
I was
good
gonna
idea to do
say.
in
But that's,
non-controlled. Yeah.